Hello, dear friends who are listening and journeying with eternal light, the place where the rays of hope, faith, and God's love are kindled each day in the hearts of many. I am truly grateful to be sharing with you today a very personal message, a gentle whisper, yet filled with divine power, a message that I firmly believe you are not hearing by coincidence at this very moment. If what I'm about to say resonates with your heart, don't hesitate to leave a comment below. Share your feelings, or simply press the like button as a small act of agreement with the light you are receiving. And if you find value in these words, don't forget to share this message so that the light may reach other souls who are longing for hope. My dear friend, in the relentless pace of life, amidst the noise of society, there are times we feel like a grain of sand in a vast desert. Easy to overlook, easy to be stepped on and hardly noticed. We move through crowds, attend meetings, participate in social interactions, and still feel an emptiness as though we are invisible, as though our presence carries no weight for anyone. There are nights when you look into the mirror and quietly wonder, if I disappeared, would anyone even notice? And it is in that moment of quiet doubt that you need to know this one truth. You are not invisible in the eyes of God. Nothing is random. You're not listening to me today because of a mere click or a suggested algorithm. No, this is an invitation, a divine signal from God Himself who is whispering to you, I still see you, I'm still here. You are not a stray fragment in the chaotic mosaic of life. You are a deliberate stroke in the grand painting of love crafted by the Creator, named, loved, and cherished. I don't say this as a theorist, but as a witness. There was a time when I believed that God only listened to the important people, those who lived righteously, successfully, or at least weren't as flawed and broken as I was. I used to feel like I was knocking on a void, praying to a God too distant to hear. But then, in that very moment of despair, when I had nothing left to lose, no one left to hold on to, I uttered a prayer that wasn't beautiful, wasn't structured, just a raw, honest cry. God, if you're still there, please give me a sign that you remember me. And you know what? The answer didn't come through thunder or a dramatic miracle. There was no booming angelic voice from the heavens. It was simply one morning. The sunlight gently brushed through the window, and within me rose a peace so deep that tears began to fall. No one called my name, but I knew. I had just been touched by an invisible hand. A love that didn't boast, but was more real than any physical evidence. That is how God moves. He doesn't need to overwhelm us to prove His presence. He only needs us to open our hearts and believe He has not forgotten me. Have you ever read that verse in the Bible? Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, Jeremiah 1:5. That isn't just poetic imagery, it's a truth that transcends every scientific explanation. Even before your parents ever thought about bringing you into this world, He already intended your existence. Your name was engraved in the palm of His hand. And that means no circumstance, no mistake, no shadow is too great to make Him forget you. People often ask me, how can I know that God still remembers me? And I answer honestly, if you're still longing, still yearning to find Him, that in itself is the sign that He is drawing you near. Because that longing does not originate from you, it is the sacred whisper of God, a calling that never forces but always perseveres. He doesn't break down the door, but stands there gently knocking, waiting for you to open. Look back on your life. Maybe you've experienced failures, betrayals, days where hope was nowhere to be found. But you're still here, you're still breathing, and more than just surviving, you are searching for something greater than yourself. That is not a coincidence. That is the evidence of divine watchfulness, a silent care that misses nothing, a presence that never shouts but never leaves. And today, through these words, through this humble voice, I truly believe that God is speaking to you, intimately and personally. My beloved child, I see you. I am walking with you. I have never forgotten you, and I'm not about to start now. If that stirs something in your heart, if you feel something gently shifting within you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment, share a reflection, whisper a prayer. Let the light you've just received through eternal light spread to those who are also yearning for it. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are being called, not by a generic title, but by your very own name. And when you realize that, a new journey begins, not from the outside, but from deep within. a journey back to eternal love, a journey whose starting point is this very moment. Chapter 1. God knows you better than you know yourself. When a person stands quietly before a mirror in the middle of the night, listening to the sound of their heartbeat in the stillness, they may ask themselves, "Does anyone truly understand me?" That question is more than rhetorical. It is the silent cry of the soul, a deep longing to be understood, to be seen, and to be loved unconditionally. But the miracle is this: you are understood, more deeply than you have ever imagined. God knows you better than you know yourself. This is not some distant philosophical concept. It is a spiritual truth, a living piece of divine revelation in Scripture, a sacred reality affirmed by the testimonies of countless souls throughout human history. I was once one of those souls, lost, skeptical, and yearning for confirmation that I was not alone. There were nights when every sound had faded that I lay awake in the darkness, feeling like just a name drifting among millions, a drop in the vast ocean of humanity. And then in that emptiness, I happened to open the Bible and came across the words in Jeremiah 1:5 in Jeremiah 1 verse 5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." Those words were like a torch igniting in the cold corners of my soul. I realized that my existence was no accident. I was known, etched into the eternal memory of God, not because I mattered to the world, but because I was an intentional creation of His. Dear friend, nothing about you is meaningless in the eyes of God. Every circumstance you've walked through, every emotion you've tucked away, every thought you've never spoken aloud, He sees them all. This isn't meant to merely comfort you. It is a confirmation of a profound love, a bond so absolute that no force in the universe can sever it. In Luke 12:7, Jesus says, "Even the hairs of your head are all numbered." That isn't just poetic language. It is a powerful truth. God doesn't just know you generally, He knows you down to the smallest detail, details that even you have never fully realized. Have you ever tried counting the hairs on your own head? None of us could do it, but God knows. And that shows us He is anything but indifferent toward you. He doesn't merely watch your life from afar like some distant spectator. He is present in every moment, whether you are standing tall in victory or crumbling in defeat. He is there in your laughter, and also in the silent tears that fall onto your pillow in the middle of the night. I remember the life of King David, once a shepherd boy, forgotten by his brothers and overlooked by his own father. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint one of Jesse's sons as king, David wasn't even called by name. But God declared, "Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." 1 Samuel 67. And it was that divine gaze that chose David, not because he was the most impressive, but because God saw what others could not. He saw potential, He saw obedience, He saw a sincere heart in the midst of a deceptive world. In the same way, God sees you, not merely through your mistakes or successes, but through the sacred essence of who you are. Even when you feel misunderstood by others, remember, God never misunderstands you. He knows you cry not because you are weak, but because you've been strong for too long. He knows your anger isn't bitterness, but a thirst for justice. He knows the things you've hidden, the pain, the emotional scars, the dreams still unborn, and He loves you completely still. Once I spoke with a woman who had been abandoned by her family because of past mistakes. She said no one believed in her anymore, not even herself. But I asked, "Do you believe that there is one who still sees you, not as a sinner, but as a daughter who needs healing?" She wept, not because of my words, but because a part of her spirit knew it was true. God's love does not require your perfection in order to embrace you. In fact, it is often in your imperfection that He draws even closer. Think of the woman caught in adultery in John 8. Those around her held stones, demanding judgment. But Jesus, the only one truly worthy to condemn, knelt and wrote something in the dust. Then He looked at her and said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go now and sin no more." That moment wasn't just mercy, it was recognition. He saw what no one else did, a soul in need of restoration, a person worthy of being loved anew. Sometimes you may wonder, how could God possibly care about me when the world is so vast with so many people, so many problems? But if He knows each wildflower in the field, if He tends to every unnoticed sparrow, how could He not see you? Nothing is too small to escape God's love. Not a single one of your tears goes unnoticed. Not a single prayer, even if it's just a weary sigh, goes unheard. You are not forgotten. You are engraved on the palms of God's hands, and you don't need to scream to get his attention. Even in your silence, he hears the voice of your heart more clearly than anyone else, because he doesn't just know your name, he knows you. And that, if you allow yourself to believe it, changes everything. So today I invite you to step into a simple but powerful truth. You don't have to fully understand yourself in order to be accepted by God. Come to him just as you are, with your unanswered questions, your unhealed wounds, and even the dark corners you're afraid to reveal, because he already knows it all, and he still loves you as if it were the very first time. When you live in the light of this truth, you no longer have to pretend. You don't need to compare yourself to others. You don't have to worry if you're good enough. You only need to be yourself, because you, just as you are a miracle, handcrafted and intimately understood by God. And if today you're longing for something deeper than words, a sense of being seen, a love that doesn't change, a place where you can collapse without fear of rejection, then know this: you have always been in the sight of God. Chapter 2, A Personal Calling, God Calls You by Name. There is a profoundly intimate truth that many of us find difficult to accept. God is calling you, personally. This is not a general call to all of humanity, nor a vague proclamation from a distant pulpit. It is a personal, sacred, and loving invitation. A call that emanates from the heart of God, piercing through the layers of busyness, anxiety, guilt, and doubt that modern life often places upon us. I once believed, as many do, that God's call was reserved for priests, preachers, saints, or certain special individuals, those who seem to live on a different plane, far removed from everyday struggles. But then, in the sacred stillness of an early morning, as I opened the Bible with a receptive heart, I felt a clear message: I have chosen you. What moved me was not just these words, but the realization that they were spoken directly to me and not to anyone else. It was a moment of understanding that God does not choose at random. He does not merely observe from afar. He draws near, very near, and calls each person by name. Throughout the Bible, this truth is reaffirmed time and again. Moses, a fugitive after committing murder, was called by God from a burning bush. The remarkable aspect was not the miraculous fire, but that God addressed him specifically. Moses, Moses, Exodus 3, verse 4. This was not a general summons to a nation, but a personal call transforming a fearful man into a deliverer of his people. Then there is Samuel, a young boy serving in the temple, unfamiliar with God's voice. God called him not once, but 3 times until Samuel responded, "Speak, for your servant is listening." 1 Samuel 3, verse 10. A child unaware of any grand mission was personally and powerfully called by God, demonstrating that the Lord reaches out to anyone willing to listen. Consider also Zacchaeus, a tax collector despised by his community, wealthy in material possessions but impoverished in spirit. When Jesus passed by, he did not say, "Hey, you up in the tree?" but called him by name. "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." This was more than a miraculous acknowledgement. It was a recognition that Jesus knew Zacchaeus personally, understood his hidden desires, and invited him into a genuine relationship. When you read these stories, you might think, that was back then, but what about me? Exactly. God is still doing the same thing today. He is calling you. Not a group, not a crowd, but you, individually by name, like a father calling his beloved child after a long day apart. He sees you, he understands you, and most incredibly, he needs you. In this vast universe, among billions of people, you hold a place in his plan that no one else can fill. No one else can do exactly what he has appointed you to do. And that is why he calls you by name, because you matter. What could be more beautiful than being called by your name, being acknowledged, being assured that you are not forgotten? In a world that makes people feel like numbers, like nameless parts in a massive machine, God's call is a sacred light that reveals your uniqueness. It lifts you up, reminds you of your divine identity, and draws you into the light with a clear sense of purpose. I remember once, after many days under heavy pressure, I took a walk in the park early one morning. Nothing spectacular happened. There were no thunderclaps, no blinding lights, but in the gentle breeze brushing through my hair, in the distant sound of birdsong, I felt something deeply personal. A silent understanding, as if someone were saying, "You are not forgotten. I am calling you. I have chosen you." From that moment, all the anxiety quietly melted away and was replaced by a deep peace, like cool water flowing through a desert. Maybe you're reading these words and still wondering, could it really be true that God is calling me? Am I even worthy of such a call? But my friend, the beauty of his love is that you don't have to be worthy before he calls you. It is his call that makes you worthy. God doesn't wait for you to be perfect. He calls you in your incompleteness, in your weakness, just as he called Moses, Samuel, and Zacchaeus. Every call is an invitation to begin a journey of transformation. And now I invite you to listen. Step away from your screen, turn down the volume of the world, step into a moment of quiet, even if only for a few minutes. Open your heart and you will hear it. The call is not rushed, not loud, but persistent and sincere. And if you dare to answer, "Here I am, Lord," the entire universe will open a path made just for you. Believe this, you are being called by name, and he never gets it wrong. Chapter 3, God is always present, even when you don't feel him. In the endless light of faith, I write these words as a living testimony to a truth that transcends emotion, logic, and the daily turbulence of the soul. God is always present, even when you don't feel him. I do not write from theory, but from the deep, dark valleys I've walked through. Those spiritually barren seasons when I felt lost, abandoned, and worthless in the eyes of the world, and even, I thought, in the eyes of God. But that was an illusion. The truth was always there, like the sun that remains in the sky even when hidden behind clouds. I still remember those turbulent months of my life, times when I lost my job, lost direction, and nearly lost my faith. Dreams faded like mist, and the hopes that once burned bright turned to ashes. Many nights I cried out in the dark, "Lord, where are you? Why are you silent when I'm in the most pain?" But no answer came right away. There was no voice from heaven, no miraculous sign, only a prolonged silence, a silence that felt like absence. But in that very silence, God was teaching me a greater lesson: to trust even when I could not see, hear, or feel. That is the lesson of Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, and imprisoned with no release in sight. Yet Genesis 39:2 says the Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man while he was in the house of his Egyptian master. Strangely, God's presence did not spare Joseph from suffering, but it was in those very trials that God shaped him, sanctified him, and lifted him up at the appointed time. God did not remove the hardship, but he was in the hardship with him. And in the end, Joseph became the one who saved an entire nation from famine. Or look at the life of Job, a righteous man who lost everything: children, possessions, even his health. Job cried out, complained, accused, and even wanted to die. He didn't feel God at all. But the absence of feeling didn't mean God was absent. In the end, God appeared and spoke to him out of a whirlwind, a symbol of a power far beyond human understanding. And Job in repentance declared, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." Job 42. Perhaps it is in the darkest moments that our spiritual eyes are finally opened to see God more clearly, more deeply, beyond vague feelings and fleeting emotions. I am convinced that none of us escapes moments of spiritual dryness. Even Jesus, the Son of God, went through such a moment when he cried out on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Matthew 27:46. That moment is the greatest proof that the feeling of abandonment does not mean actual abandonment. It was in that very moment that God was completing his plan for the salvation of humanity. This teaches me that if Jesus himself could not feel the Father in his most painful hour, then how can I, a small, limited human being, expect to escape moments where it seems God is absent? We live in an age where emotions reign supreme, where people believe that if you don't feel something, it must not be real. But Christian faith is not based on feelings. It is founded on solid truth, that God is faithful, that he keeps his promises, and he never abandons those who seek him with a sincere heart. Sometimes his silence is the furnace where our souls are refined, not to punish us, but to purify and sanctify us. I remember one night In the midst of that darkness, I randomly opened my Bible and read these words in Isaiah 41:10. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Those words were like a torch blazing in a cold night. I began to learn how to live one day at a time in trust, even when my emotions couldn't catch up. And amazingly, it was in that silence that my inner life deepened, matured, and my relationship with God became more real than ever. He never promised that we would never face darkness. He only promised that the darkness would never overcome his light. As Psalm 23 verse 4 says, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." He is with you. That is certain, whether you feel him or not. God's presence does not depend on your emotions. It depends on his faithful nature. Dear friend, if you are walking through a season where it seems God is absent, know this: he is closer than you think. Perhaps he is silent so that you might learn to listen with your heart. Perhaps he is allowing you to walk through the night so you may learn to walk by faith, not by sight. And who knows, this very moment might become the most powerful testimony of your life, just like it was for Joseph, for Job, and even for Jesus. So I invite you, as I once whispered to my own soul, hold on. Keep praying, even when you don't feel anything. Keep reading God's word, even when your heart is dry. Keep worshiping, even if your tears fall. Because when you are faithful in the darkness, you will meet God in the light. And one day you will look back and see Nanahan, he was never far away, not even for a second. God is always present, not as a vague idea, but as a loving Father, always watching, always caring, always preparing something better than you could ask or imagine. Trust in him, and you will never be abandoned. Chapter 4. Unconditional love. God loves you. Just love is one of the most overused words and yet one of the least understood, rarely grasped in its truest, deepest form. In this fast-paced and demanding life, we are often swept up in a whirlwind of conditions, expectations, requirements, and disappointments. People love for a reason, and they stop loving for a reason. But there is a kind of love that is unlike anything the human heart has ever known. The unconditional love of God for you. God doesn't love you because you're perfect. He doesn't love you because you've accomplished something great. He loves you simply because you are you, the one he handcrafted with his own hands, the soul into which he breathed the breath of life. When I was younger, I used to think that God's love for me depended on how well I lived, how faithfully I prayed, or how perfectly I kept his laws and held on to my faith. I lived many years in fear, afraid that if I messed up, I'd fall out of that love. But true love is not like a contract with conditions, and God's love is far from that. He loved me before I even knew how to love myself. He loved me when I was still a stranger to him, and he still loves me, even when I lose my way. Think of the prodigal son in Jesus' parable, Luke 15. He demanded his inheritance, a shameful insult to his father in Jewish culture at that time. He left home, squandered everything, lived recklessly, and ended up feeding pigs. But when he decided to come back, before he could even utter an apology, his father ran to him, embraced him, kissed him, and threw a celebration. That is love that doesn't count offenses, doesn't measure worth, and doesn't ask for conditions. That father is a picture of God, the one who is always waiting for you, always loving you, not because you deserve it, but because he is love. Or look at the life of Paul, once known as Saul, a man who persecuted Christians and was complicit in the deaths of early believers. And yet this Saul was chosen by God, transformed, and became one of the greatest apostles, the writer of much of the New Testament. If God's love were conditional, Saul could never have become Paul. But grace, which means undeserved love, made it possible. That is the foundation of Christian faith. You cannot earn God's love. You can only receive it. I once went through a season when I was drowning in self-blame, doubt, and self-contempt. I told God I didn't deserve to be loved anymore. But instead of hearing judgment, I felt a gentleness I couldn't describe, like a quiet whisper in my heart saying, "You are my child. I made you. I love you." And I understood that his love is not affected by my mistakes. God doesn't love you less when you fail, and He doesn't love you more when you succeed. His love is eternal and unchanging. The miracle is this, that love doesn't just cover you like a gentle stream. It has the power to transform you from the very core of who you are. When you truly believe you are loved unconditionally, you no longer have to live in pretense. You no longer need to hide your flaws. You no longer need to live to please everyone. You begin to live in freedom. Not the freedom to sin, but the freedom to be healed, to be renewed, to live in the fullness of the identity God placed in you from the beginning. God's love is not an abstract theory. It is a real, living, breathing experience. I have witnessed so many lives changed simply because someone finally believed that God truly loved them, without masks, without achievements, without needing to be good enough. We live in a world that teaches love must be earned, but God teaches this: I love you because you are my child. He loves you when you get it right. He still loves you when you get it wrong. He loves you when you walk steadily in faith, and He does not abandon you when you collapse in weakness. You don't need to change in order to be loved, but once you truly receive that love, it is the love itself that will change you. Just as the sun doesn't wait for the field to become beautiful before it shines, God's love doesn't wait for you to become holy before it pours out. The sun shines on both the righteous and the unrighteous, and so does God's love. It flows like a never-ending waterfall. All you need to do is open your heart to receive it. If you are carrying shame, insecurity, or the feeling that you are a burden to others, know this: God does not see you that way. He sees a precious child, a soul of immeasurable value, someone worthy of love. You are not just a number in the crowd. You are not an anonymous soul. He knows your name. He knows every scar on your heart, and He still loves you just the same. And when you understand this love, you will also learn how to love others, not because they deserve it, but because you have been loved that way. You forgive not because others are good, but because you have been forgiven. You become a light to others because you once walked in the dark and God lifted you up. Don't let anyone or anything convince you that you are unworthy of God's love. There is no mistake greater than His mercy. There is no pit too deep for His hand to reach. There is no sin the cross cannot erase, and there is no broken heart God cannot heal. The love of God is the only answer to the deep loneliness inside every human soul. When the world turns away, when people love you and then leave you, when you have nothing left to hold on to, God's love remains. Do not be afraid when you feel like you have no one, because you still have God. And when you have God, you have everything. You don't have to chase after a mold to be worthy of love. Pause, listen, feel it. I love you. That is the living word, the breath of the one who made you, the unshakable truth. Let that love heal you, renew you, and lead you into the abundant life He designed for you since the beginning. And I, who once lived in fear, who once didn't dare to believe I could be loved this way, now I can say to you with all certainty, God loves you, just as you are, right here, right now, unconditionally, unchangingly, forever. This promise is not a guarantee to erase the storms. Rather, it is an affirmation. No matter how high the waters rise, you will not be swept away. God, in all circumstances, is present. He does not say, you will never walk through fire, but He promises, the flames will not set you ablaze. Isaiah 43:2, latter part. These words are not poetic comfort. They are truth proven throughout the sacred history of mankind. Look at Daniel. When he was thrown into the lion's den for remaining faithful in prayer, no miracle stopped him from being taken to the place of death. But the lions did not open their mouths. That is the picture of a faith not spared from trials, but sustained in the very jaws of them. Or take his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who refused to bow to Nebuchadnezzar's golden image and were thrown into the blazing furnace. Yet mysteriously, a fourth figure appeared in the fire, like a son of the gods. Daniel 3, verse 25. None of them were burned. Not even the smell of fire clung to their clothes. The presence of God did not extinguish the flames, but transformed their nature from destruction into sanctification. Likewise, in your own life, there will be times when the fire of trials consumes every plan, every dream, every direction. But that has never been a sign of abandonment. On the contrary, it is often the sacred space where God teaches you what true trust looks like. I used to think writing books was far beyond me, that I lacked the talent or the experience to do such a thing. But in those 6 months in a wheelchair, God gave me space and time and profound reflection to begin writing. I did not write with my feet, but with hands healed in the silence and meaning of suffering. Christianity never promises a life without pain. Even Jesus, the innocent one, wept, suffered, was crucified. But he is also the risen one, the one who holds power over death, and the one who walks with each of us in our trials. You may be in the middle of a storm, and every prayer may seem unanswered. But remember this: no prayer is forgotten, and no tear is left unheld by God. The promise amidst trials does not soften reality, but it creates unshakable hope. When you walk without seeing light, when you strive without seeing results, that is the very moment faith is forged. And in the moment you feel most alone is the moment you are closest to God. He is not far off. He is right there, in the furnace, in the lion's den, in the hospital room, in the ruins of your broken dreams. And he whispers, "I will not abandon you." This promise isn't a commitment to erase all storms, but it is an affirmation. No matter how high the waters rise, you will not be swept away. God, in every circumstance, is present. He doesn't say you will never walk through fire, but he promises the flames will not set you ablaze. Isaiah 43, verse 2. These words aren't mere poetic consolations. They are truths demonstrated throughout sacred human history. Consider Daniel. When he was thrown into the lion's den for his unwavering commitment to prayer, no miracle prevented him from being cast into that place of death. Yet the lions' mouths were shut. This illustrates a faith that isn't exempt from trials, but is upheld even amidst the jaws of adversity. Or his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who refused to bow to Nebuchadnezzar's golden image and were thrown into a blazing furnace. Astonishingly, a fourth figure appeared with them in the fire, resembling a son of the gods, Daniel 3, verse 25. None of them were burned. Even the smell of fire was absent from their clothes. God's presence didn't extinguish the flames, but transformed their nature, from destruction to sanctification. Similarly, in your own life, there will be times when the fires of trials consume all plans, dreams, and directions. But this has never been a sign of abandonment. On the contrary, it is often the sacred space God uses to teach you what true trust means. I once thought writing a book was an unattainable goal, believing I lacked the talent or experience. But during those 6 months in a wheelchair, God provided me with the space and time and the deep reflections to begin writing. I didn't write with my legs, but with hands that had been healed through silence and the meaning found in suffering. Christianity has never promised a life free from pain. Even Jesus, the sinless one, experienced tears, suffering, and crucifixion. Yet he is also the resurrected one who holds power over death and walks with each of us through our trials. Perhaps you are in the midst of a storm and every prayer seems unanswered. But remember, no prayer is forgotten and no tear goes unnoticed by God. The promise amidst trials doesn't soften reality, but it fosters unwavering hope. When you walk without seeing light, when you strive without visible results, that is when faith is refined. And in the moments you feel most alone, you are, in fact, closest to God. He is not far away. He is right there, in the furnace, in the lion's den, in the hospital room, in your shattered dreams. And he whispers, "I will not abandon you." Chapter 6. A story of transformation, from despair to hope. In the journey of human life, there are moments when we feel as though we've been pushed to the brink of despair, where the light of hope seems to have gone out completely. Yet it is precisely in these darkest moments that God's love and grace can shine the brightest, transforming a life from dust to a precious gem. And Story is a living testimony to this miraculous transformation. Anne was once a person trapped in the vicious cycle of addiction, each passing day a battle with himself and the relentless pull of temptation. Despair overwhelmed him, making him believe that he had been abandoned by society and, worse still, by God. But it was at the lowest point of pain and loneliness that Anne came to a profound realization: God had never left him. This awareness did not arrive through a sudden miracle, but through small, meaningful signs in daily life, from people who carried within them the light of compassion and forgiveness. And Story is reminiscent of the Samaritan woman at the well, recorded in the Gospel of John, chapter 4. This woman, despised by society and living in sin, met Jesus while drawing water. Despite knowing her past, Jesus neither judged nor shunned her. On the contrary, he spoke with her and revealed his unconditional love. He spoke to her about living water, a symbol of grace and eternal life that he offers. This encounter completely changed her life, turning her from an outcast into a messenger of good news to her entire village. The parallels between Anne and the Samaritan woman are striking. Both felt marginalized, burdened by their past and their sins. But when they opened their hearts to receive God's love and forgiveness, their lives were miraculously transformed. This reminds us that no one is too far gone to be reached by God. No one is too lost to be led back. In life, we often set standards and conditions for ourselves and others, believing that only when those are met do we deserve love and acceptance. But God operates differently. He loves us not because we are perfect or worthy, but simply because we are His children. His love is not based on performance or past, but is a free gift, always available to those who open their hearts to receive it. Looking back on my own life, I too have gone through dark phases when hope felt like a distant concept. But it was in those very moments that I sensed the quiet yet powerful presence of God, like a lighthouse guiding me through the night. He never promised life would be easy, but He did promise to always walk with us, giving us strength to overcome every trial. The story of Anne, the Samaritan woman, and countless others is living proof of this truth. God is always waiting for us to return. He is always ready to receive and transform us with His boundless love. No matter how broken the past, no matter how hard the present, hope is always there for those who seek and trust in Him. Final chapter. Dear friend, if you're reading these words, know that it is not by coincidence. It is not a random event or an accidental click among millions of choices in the digital world. This is an invitation, a divine calling from the one who knew your name before you ever came to know yourself, the one who loved you even while you were still in darkness, the one whose eyes have followed you every single day, even when you weren't aware of Him. This is God, the one who not only created the universe, but personally invites you into a deep, living, and healing relationship with Him. And this invitation is not sent to a crowd, but to you. Yes, you. In this ever-changing life, where everything seems to spin and no promise lasts longer than a passing season, God is the only one who does not change. While the world may define you by your mistakes, God sees you through the lens of love, unconditional, unjudging love. You are not invisible to Him. You are not forgotten, and surely you are not defined by old wounds or past failures. You are not the sum of your mistakes. You are a masterpiece of love, and more than forgiveness, you are called by name, not just any name, but the one He has engraved in the palm of His hand. You might be asking yourself, can it really be true? Could someone really love me this much, even though I've done nothing to deserve it? The answer is yes. And not just yes, but yes for a very long time. Long before you could form a prayer, before you voiced your fears, even before you knew you needed help, God was already there. Like a father patiently waiting for his prodigal child to return. Like a shepherd leaving the 99 to search for the one lost sheep. Like Jesus at the well, willing to break through religious and social barriers, to sit beside someone cast aside and say, I know you, I see you, and I love you. Today's invitation doesn't ask for your perfection. It doesn't require that you fully understand the Bible or live a spotless life. He simply wants you to come home. That's all. Just try, for once, to listen to that quiet yet unwavering voice echoing in your soul. My child, come home. I am still waiting. Maybe you once believed, but lost that faith amid the noise of life. Maybe you've never believed, but something in you is lighting up as you read these words. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, God is still patient, never in a rush, never forcing, but never stopping His search for you. You don't need to bring anything with you when you return. No proof, no explanation. He doesn't need a reason because His love is the reason. Let today be the day you open your heart, even just a little, and say, Lord, if you are there, I want to know. I want to feel you. I want to come back. Begin with a simple, honest prayer. Give Him a chance to reach into your life, just as He has done for millions before you, as He has done for me. I don't come to you as someone who has all the answers. I come to you as someone who once fell, got lost, and questioned whether there was still a way back. And I found that way, not by my own strength, but by grace, by a steady hand that was always reaching out, waiting. And today I share that light with you because light is never meant to be kept for oneself. Thank you for staying until the end of this video. If something in today's message touched your heart, don't let it pass like a fleeting wind. Pause for a moment, pray, reflect, and if you'd like, write your thoughts in the comment section. We, the Eternal Light community, are always here to walk alongside you and pray with you. Before you go, I want to invite you to check out the special videos we've prepared at the end screen. Messages full of hope like God makes the impossible happen and it starts when you believe, or morning prayer for healing and breakthrough are waiting there, not just to be watched, but to transform you. Once again, thank you for being here, for listening, and for opening your heart. I believe this is not an ending, but a beginning, a new journey filled with light, with hope, and with love. We look forward to seeing you again next time when you return, not just to hear another message, but to live in the very light of God.